All right, thank you so very much for staying with us. Well, Nigeria is set to implement a comprehensive cryptocurrency tax framework starting January 1st, 2026, marking a significant shift in the country's approach to digital assets. Now, this move aims to formalize the taxation of crypto activities, which had previously operated in a regulatory gray area. Now, the expected start date is January 1st, 2026. Now, we need to ask some questions, very big questions. In my thoughts, who are those that will be taxed? Individuals, Nigeria cryptocurrency exchanges, virtual asset service providers? What are the rates? Individuals, capital gains tax, and all of that. Cryptocurrency payments for services. A lot around this. On reporting, individuals self-report. Exchanges must track and report transactions to Nigerian's Revenue Service. I spoke to Mr. Taiwo Yedele last week, yes, at the Nigerian Economic Summit, and we extensively explained some of this developments and how it's going to play out as we move into 2026. But let's talk to Mr. Ayotunde Alabi. He's the Chief Executive Officer at LUNO Nigeria about the focus on this tax, particularly with regards to the crypto segment of the Nigerian economy. Thank you so much. It's good to have you here. It's the first time on the show. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I think from an industry perspective, I want to ask, how prepared is Nigeria's crypto ecosystem, talking about exchanges, investors, and regulators for this transaction? Yeah,
thanks. I think for the more structured crypto exchanges, I think it's something that I could speak for myself, I could speak for LUNO. It's a global firm with local presence in Nigeria, and we are in jurisdictions where we pay taxes. As a matter of fact, in Nigeria, we also pay taxes, right, within the stipulated regulations of what currently is at the moment. So yes, I think for any business, you'd expect to pay taxes, and we're happy that there's now a formalized regulatory framework for the Nigerian crypto industry, because then it makes, it sort of gives another a level of, what's it called? Confidence, exactly, to both the investors and also the other players in the market, looking at it to say that now we are under a regulatory framework that recognizes crypto as a business and an investable instrument.
Interesting stuff. So it depends on coordination between agencies like SEC, CBN, FRS. Now there will be NRS, right? Correctly, from January. I think that's what it will be, Nigerian Revenue Service.
Absolutely.
But what practical steps will be needed to ensure these bodies work in sync on crypto taxation and compliance?
No, I think so. Coordination is very key. Absolutely. I think that there has to be like a work group where these regulators come together to understand exactly the intricacies of the business of crypto, because it's vast. We could talk about it, we could talk about perpetuals, we could talk about futures, we can talk about a lot of different angles that, crypto is about. And then the thing that you need to also understand is also, what do we describe as a taxable event, right? And that is where we need both the regulators and the players in the market to come together to determine exactly how do we tax this industry effectively. And we can't just apply a blanket tax over everything that happens in the industry. So there has to be, from the regulatory perspective, there has to be coordination, because obviously the SEC has, as stipulated by the ISC 2025, the SEC has, oversight functions in the industry in terms from a regulatory perspective and a licensing perspective. Then how does, that work stream has to include the SEC, the FIRS as it's called right now, and also the players, to ensure that appropriate things are taxed within the industry.
Interesting stuff. In your perspective, I saw that you're looking at that the saying 2026 timeline is still okay for everyone to align, and that users aren't overwhelmed.
Well, look, like I said before, we are not operating with the mindset that there's not going to be taxing, right? We pay company income tax already, and so there are already processes that has been put in place to ensure that taxing, we pay taxes effectively. We also pay VAT. The new thing right now is the capital gains and the structure, again, and it's good because, everyone pays taxes. We would pay taxes one way or the other. So I think the hard part of this is now to create a structure that captures capital gains from an exchange perspective and deduct that effectively before even, so that consumers are not overwhelmed, because then it would mean that I have to do my taxes myself and then determine what I gain and not. But we can set up infrastructures to help people do that as they are making those trades. So I think that we're ready. Most of the exchanges are ready. I don't think that the timeline is steep, but I do what I would suggest maybe would be that enforcement or sanctionable enforcement shouldn't commence in January. They should allow more time for other exchanges to also adjust.
Interesting. Globally, countries differ in what counts as taxable with regards to crypto events. For instance, trading versus cashing out and all of that. What approach might make the most sense for Nigeria's market structure?
I think it is understanding the dynamics of what constitutes a taxable event. Right? You mentioned cashing out. Cashing out is not a taxable event. I could have monies in my wallet on the exchange and then cash it out. That's cashing out, right? I could buy a token and then the token hasn't moved, and then I cash that. I can buy stable coins and then cash out. That is not a taxable event, right? So I think again, it's understanding the intricacies of the business, working together with the players to help us understand exactly what would determine what is taxable, and then we can start from there.
Another interesting part of it. Now, do you anticipate that taxation could help bring more activities into the formal financial system, or do you see any risk in this?
No, well, it's two-pronged. I think if done well, if taxation is done well, I think it portends, it makes the industry, become viewed as a structured and investable, industry where even foreign portfolio investors can also come in. Right, that's one. But secondly, also from an individual perspective and from a consumer's perspective, people, if it is not done properly, then people might, become overwhelmed, and that's a risk that's, not sort of consulting the players in the market and coordinating properly can have. That's the impact that it can have. So I think if it's done well, if it's simple enough, if it's clear enough, then I don't think that it will become overwhelming for people, and I think that it portends more positives than negatives for the industry. I also think that we as exchanges also have responsibilities. We have the responsibility of education to understand exactly what is in play at the moment, and we've started already to engage our customers and make them understand that come 2026, the taxing will come, and then we need as much as possible to be able to help them understand that this is where we are at this point in time, and this is where we'll be going forward from here.
I'd like to know, of course, if there have been consultations, maybe your team, or if you have an association, which I guess you should, have met with the team, the committee on the tax system, because we talked about the issue of awareness. Many say that there still needs to be more awareness for Nigerians, and particularly for players in your own industry. How well has that been happening?
No, I agree that there needs to be more awareness. There's ongoing efforts to engage with the tax, the regulatory bodies responsible for this taxing. So I do think that there's room for more engagement. What we currently have, so the responsibility for what's it called now, for awareness, is also the regulatory body have been doing that as well. The exchanges have been doing that, but there still needs to be more awareness, and I think that we'll continue to do that into the foreseeable future. How
might this framework affect retail investors and everyday traders, especially those who may not have access to professional tax or compliance advice?
That's what I said about the exchanges, the responsibility of the exchanges here as well, education, and also putting structure in place to be able to determine exactly what is taxable, whether you indeed made profits, in terms of, or gains, as the case may be. So the scenario here is that when you make gains, the first 800,000 naira that you make in gains is not taxable. But anything other than that, anything above the 800,000 naira that you gain from a trade would now be taxed at 15%. So that's the impact. But again, the 800. But if you make a loss, for example, if you bought Bitcoin at $1,000 and then you sold at you sold at 500, you've made a loss of $500. Or $500 as the case may be. So you're not liable for any taxing. So yeah, the responsibility lies both on the exchange and also on the individual, but more on the exchange, just to ensure that we put in frameworks that allows for people to, work their taxes for them easily and educate them, as the case may be.
So crypto now treated as financial securities under Nigerian law, how does that make players like you feel?
It depends.
Because there was this back and forth before now, right?
Yes, so it depends, right? Look, a semblance of framework is net positive for us in any case. So we're happy that we are no longer operating in a gray area. We are now operating in a more formalized way, and which is a good thing, right? So I think what we need more is a clearer framework where licensing is issued to more exchanges, where more players feel confident to be a part of the system. Because again, most of the exchanges in Nigeria don't have licenses. And if you don't have licenses, then how then do you categorize me as a crypto exchange to be paying taxes that you've stipulated for that industry? So there is that debacle currently going on, and then also the engagement going on to ensure that the SEC, issues more licenses, and the government is also bringing us into a regulatory framework where everyone feel, they are responsible, or they feel the need to pay taxes at this case, at this point.
Looking ahead to 2026 and beyond, what broader impact could this policy have on Nigeria's crypto landscape?
Like I said before, there's the angle of foreign portfolio investors coming into the space. There's also opportunity now for local exchanges to approach the capital market, because again now the future is regulation, licensing, and growth. So when companies begin to grow, they want also to grow and scale for that. So with a legal framework, a tax framework, companies can approach the capital market to raise, equity, to raise funds rather through equity or debt financing. So, there's a lot of good things in the future if this is done right.
Interesting stuff. Talking about both regulations and innovation. Generally, how's the market now, considering what's been happening, the flip-flop, even on the global space?
Well, look, crypto is a very volatile industry.
It
is a volatile industry. So if you're coming into crypto, you understand exactly the ramifications of that. It could swing up today, it could be down tomorrow. So I think we're here for it. We're happy about some of those things, because if the market is flat, then nobody's making money, right? And nobody's making a loss anyways. But the point is that people need those alphas sometimes to be able to, or those movements sometimes to be able to make monies as the case may be. So I think, look, in terms of the markets, from a global perspective, there's been a lot of conversations around stable coins. There's been a lot of policies issued across multiple countries. Kenya yesterday just passed the act, the Crypto Act, which almost seems like what we did recently in Nigeria, the ISA Act, of 2025 that was passed as well. So more countries are opening up their borders, or they're opening up their environment, their business environments to accommodate crypto, because crypto is here to stay and it isn't going anywhere. So people are now beginning to adjust, and more regulators that were on the sidelines before are now beginning to design frameworks to accept the reality that crypto brings into as the one for the future.
What about a perception here? How receptive would you say Nigerians are? I'm a journalist and we ask questions a lot. We still know that some Nigerians, in some cases, are still a bit skeptical, and they're always having this fear one way or the other. Yeah, I know recently my colleague Effion covered something about one of these crypto agencies, I think, coming into Nigeria and all of that. But my question really is, in your operations, how receptive are Nigerians to this crypto market that has really come to stay? I agree with you, it has come to stay.
Look, Nigeria is one of the top 3 countries in crypto adoption, I think, globally. Right, I think we're now 6th. We were, I think, 2 or 3 before, the 2nd or 3rd before in terms of crypto adoption globally. So, in terms of acceptance, Nigerians love crypto, and that's why most of these foreign, exchanges are also looking to come into Nigeria. So, it's not an issue of acceptance. But you asked about also, perception. I think sometimes these platforms like this also gives us the chance to be able to talk about what crypto is and what crypto is not. Yeah. Particularly what crypto is not. A lot of people assume that crypto is a get-rich-quick scheme. It isn't, right? You have to, and that's why most people get their fingers burnt when they, have that approach. But I think there are different use cases of crypto, right? Most people, the reason why Nigerians are one of the top countries in terms of crypto adoption is the use case that Nigeria sort of deployed crypto for, which is, remittances. So today, people can move stable coins across border without having to go through the orthodox banking rails. Easier, faster, and cheaper. So that's why a lot of people, Nigeria has, a lot of remittance, play where people are moving monies, either into Nigeria or outside of Nigeria. So that's the use case. That's what has driven Nigeria's crypto adoption to the skies, basically. And that's where we are at this point in time. So in terms of perception, the moment you understand that crypto is not the get-rich-quick scheme, it's a long-term play, then I think that you'll be fine. But I think Nigerians love crypto. I love crypto.
So on the final note, where do you see this market moving on, let's say, in another 2-3 years?
Look, the vision of LUNO is to upgrade Nigeria into better financials, it's to upgrade the world into a better financial system. And I think that aligns with how I see, the future of crypto. It is to upgrade the world into a better financial system. I see a future where, the orthodox rails are being upgraded into a faster and a more seamless, infrastructure, where moving money from Nigeria to South Africa is done at the speed of light, right? Where we don't have to go, touch different correspondent banks for us to be able to arrive at, a neighboring country like Ghana, right? So those are the kind of things where we don't incur exorbitant fees because I want to move monies. I mean, sometimes I can travel faster from Nigeria to Ghana than for me to send monies from Nigeria to Ghana. No. It shouldn't be that way, right? And that's if Ghana is even closer. I could do Canada. It takes me 48 hours to go to Canada, for example. If I send monies from Nigeria through the banking rails, I would get to Canada before the money. It shouldn't be that way because it has to touch different correspondent bank. So the future is digital. The future is faster rails. The future is ease of moving monies across. The future is also better investments, use cases. The future is technology on the blockchain and every other thing that comes with it.
I must thank you so much. Interesting conversation. I've been speaking to Mr. Ayotunde Alabi, CEO, LUNO Nigeria there, giving his insights on this expected taxation that would start up as we move into 2026 and as government is set to implement the new tax laws signed in by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Thank you so much. That's it.